Hello, welcome back to Shock's Talks. I'm Shakti and today is January 20th, 2025. There's a lot going on in the world right now, both in UAP news and also just in general. We talked last time about the TikTok ban that was like a big ripple in the collective psyche. It went dark for just about a day or so, and then it came back online, and now everyone is super skeptical about what that means and what might be going on behind the scenes with our new president and Elon Musk and Zuckerberg and all the rest of it. And so it's drama, drama on that front. And then on these platforms, I'm seeing a lot of posts about UAP sightings, a big mothership off the Gulf of Mexico, and continued sightings around the world of what we were calling the drones. We don't know what they are. I'm seeing people getting really excited about psychic stuff because the telepathy tapes has made a huge splash on the scene. It is a brilliant work, a podcast by Kai Dickens that you can access on like all the platforms, but it's on YouTube, it's on Spotify. There's a website. It's an incredible work of art, in my opinion. And I talked about it on one of my episodes, which led to a Russian scientist reaching out to me. He studies DNA. He's also part of a whole hybrid and starseed collective and just wanted to have a chat with me on his webinar this past Saturday. So I thought about it and did a little research about him and his work and decided, sure, why not? Let me practice talking to somebody else on a podcast because I want to get to the point where I'm interviewing people on this podcast eventually. And so I'm just like practicing my skills right now, doing my research and laying out the foundation for everything that I want to do next. And it felt like a really exciting opportunity, so I took it. So I've linked that below along with just a couple of other things today. Like I mentioned in the description box of my last episode, Tom Campbell was recently interviewed on the Joe Rogan podcast, which is huge. I've been following Tom Campbell's work for over 10 years now, and all of this time I've been continuing to sort of, I guess, compare his work to other works that are out there and other theories and other people's ideas, and I keep coming back to it. It's the most comprehensive theory of everything that I've ever come across, and I absolutely love it. I love his way of thinking and his purpose and his soulful mission on the earth, you could say. So I really am a big supporter of his work, and I also feel like it's an important piece of the puzzle when it comes to shifting awareness towards a greater understanding of the true nature of reality. So the fact that he was on Joe Rogan's podcast, which has a huge following, is a really big deal to me, and hopefully it'll be a big deal to the world. So I've linked that below if you're interested in that. There's also Tom Campbell's website. You can just search his name on YouTube, and there's tons of other videos with him talking. But I thought this conversation with Joe Rogan was good because, how do I say this? Tom Campbell is a brilliant genius, but just like many brilliant geniuses, we all have our little personality quirks. And sometimes he gets he's very much into re-explaining things in a really simple and straightforward way so that everyone can grasp it. But he'll start off on like a tangent and it's hard to like stop him or redirect him. I've noticed this because I've watched hundreds of hours of his interviews with other people. And I thought Joe did a really good job of pressing him just a couple of times to kind of get him to explain something in a different way, or to get him to admit where, he wasn't really necessarily speaking fact, but rather just sharing his opinion, which he's always really good about. But it was just interesting, like the gentle back and forth that I saw happening in that interview that I think would be really beneficial to the audience. At the end of the day, it's really about the audience who's listening to the information being able to grasp it and being able to answer their questions. Even if they're not in the room asking them, you can kind of feel what they're going to ask or what they're going to think. And I thought Joe did a really good job with that. So that was cool to see. And I've linked Tom Campbell's QSAC website today, which I don't usually post. I usually post his My Big Toe website. And QSAC is the Center for the Unification of Science and Consciousness. And here you can learn about the physics experiments that he's doing and all kinds of other stuff. And then I linked the webinar with Max Rempel. That's who I was chatting with on Saturday. And I'll tell you a little bit more about that too. I linked that at the very bottom, and then I linked the Jacob Barber interview on News Nation, which was the big UAP news of the weekend. So lots to talk about today, but we're going to kind of flow freely. This is not a scripted episode. I didn't take a lot of notes because I just kind of want to share my thoughts and feelings in a more relaxed manner today. So let me take a sip of my tea. It's blueberry lavender. It's really good. It's a really cold day today. And I had a psychic dream last night. So let's start with that. I dreamed of a person and an event, and I woke up thinking about it, and I was very surprised by it, and I was confused. And then that person called me and said, "Guess what happened last night?" And they told me what happened, and it was the thing that I dreamed about. Now, there was more information about what happened and who it happened with and things along those lines that weren't in my dream, so I didn't know everything in full detail, which I have had a dream like that before where I did know everything in full detail. I saw it happen, I saw the people involved, the location, and it was all accurate. In this particular instance, I got the person, the event, and that was it. There was a mishmash of my own subconscious overlay and emotions intermingling with the data. And when I woke up, I had no idea that it was a premonition of a dream. I just thought it was a weird dream. The only reason that I found out it was real is because that person called me and decided to tell me something private that had happened. So it's interesting because it makes me wonder so many things, like how many times are any of us dreaming about real information and we just have no idea that it's real? It was also interesting because yesterday I spent almost 2 hours practicing my out-of-body techniques with binaural beats and a blindfold. Almost 2 hours of laying in my bed, trying to meditate, trying to do all these different energetic techniques, and just having a few little flashes of experiences that were out of the norm, but nothing really to like write home about. And then I went to bed and continued to carry that intention with me like I do every night, to have some kind of anomalous experience and to be able to remember it and talk about it. And this is what happened. So that was a little drop in the bucket for me, a little bit of experiential evidence that is just enough to keep me going, just enough to keep me feeling excited. And I had this whole kind of bike analogy that I was going through when I first started recording this episode, and then my camera just cut off and I had to start over. But what I was saying is that, you know, with this out of body stuff, I imagine that it might be like riding a bike where when you're first learning, you can't do it at all. You're just really relying on your training wheels, or you're really relying on your parent to put their hand on your back and keep you from falling over. And they might push you off and you go a little bit, but then you just tip over because you haven't really like mastered that balance yet, that center of gravity. It just doesn't make sense to you yet. And then once you get it, it just locks in, and then there you go. You're a biker now. You know how to bike. And that's why people say it's just like riding a bike, because even if you spend years not doing it, you can get back on and your body kind of snaps back into action and you know what you're doing. So I'm really hoping that out of body travel is just like this, because I feel like over all the years that I've been trying to access these abilities, I've only gotten these little flashes in the pan of either really powerful synchronicities or small premonitions, sometimes a little bit bigger premonitions that are pretty significant in my life, or really personal information that feels just relevant to me but not really verifiable, or a very subtle but powerful increased intuition and perceptive ability over time. Maybe I've been able to manifest better and things like that, but I haven't really had the full out-of-body experience that I've been looking for. So a lot of teachers will say, you're not going to get it when you're trying so hard, or you just need to let go. It's kind of like what people say about love, like, oh, you can't be like looking for love or trying to make it happen. It'll just hit you when you least expect it. And nothing makes me more irritated than when people say that. So you can imagine I feel the same way about out of body. I'm like, no, there has to be a way. If I try hard enough, I can get it to happen. But all the experts say no, that's not the way it works. So whatever, that annoys me, but I'm still trying, and I'm trying to do it loosely and gently and just consistently over time. And I had a little bit of experiential evidence this morning with my psychic dream, so that felt like progress. And I've been thinking a lot about the Telepathy Tapes podcast, which has been extremely powerful and inspirational. And I've been thinking a lot about how in that podcast, some of the kids say that it's important for people to believe in them and to believe in their abilities, and that this work of art is going out into the world full of scientific evidence and anecdotal evidence to help people understand that psi phenomena is really real, and it's not supernatural, it's supernatural. It's not paranormal, it's normal. You know what I mean? So it's like when more and more people do tap into this understanding and awareness, I think it really starts to tip the scales. And I think it helps all of us to gain momentum. So for me, we're in a really powerful moment right now. So I wouldn't be surprised if all of you are also having and experiencing either and or increased synchronicities, little telepathic moments, psychic flashes, maybe just deeper intuition, maybe a stronger sense of purpose, and maybe a deeper curiosity to uncover more information about the true nature of reality. So I don't know. Let me know. Let me know if anything exciting has happened lately, because I would love to know if you've had something psychic go down recently, or UFO or UAP sightings, because a lot of people are having those right now too. So definitely let me know in the comments if that's happening. But let's go ahead and talk about this egg-shaped UAP. So this weekend was the big Ross Coulthart interview with Jacob Barber on News Nation. It was something that many people have been anticipating, and lots of experts have already been reflecting on it on various channels. And basically what we got was an interview with a person who transported a UAP. Let's just boil it down to that. A person, what's the word I'm looking for? This was a very high level. He started off as some kind of mechanic, like a air flight mechanic, I think, or what am I talking about? Pilot, mechanic, some kind of engineer, some kind of technical expert who also had all kinds of other abilities. Like he had all these like high level flying abilities in different capacities, and combat abilities, and just one of those high up there skilled humans who's in the service. And he ended up working for one of those crash retrieval programs where they were transporting these anomalous things. And one of the things that he transported and saw was an egg. Now, you can go listen to this interview and get all the details for yourself. I'm kind of just thinking about it today, so I'm not reporting on every fact and every detail from that interview, because I want you to listen to that interview. You're going to get a lot out of it. It's definitely filled with many little tidbits and a strong emotional core. Like, this man was moved by the things he saw, and he had his own psychic experience that was very powerful and interesting. And he also had some damaging effects that were physical from one of the unknown things that he transported that left him with no hair. It had radiation, kind of like radiation effects where his skin was falling off and things like that. He's okay now. You can also just see in his face that he's seen a lot because his eyes are literally like this, like nonstop. Like his eyes are like open, you know what I mean? Because he has that, it's almost like the cellular memory of the shock of all that he has seen and felt. You can perceive that in his physicality. It's very interesting. So, he talks about this egg. They show the video footage. That's all very interesting. And I do recommend checking it out. It's not like a super long interview. The most interesting part about it was the psionics. He talks about psionic assets, which is a psychic person who works for these secret programs, very much along the lines of remote viewers and other psychic people that we've been hearing about for years and years, if you research this kind of thing. And in this particular story that he told, one of the psionic assets was piloting a UAP with their mind remotely, so from a distance. And that is a very interesting story to me, because what it points to, if it's true, is number one, these secret programs never stopped, like we all know. They just went underground, they went darker, they went more secret, and people continue to explore psychic phenomena because it's a really important part of reality and a function of consciousness. And number two, these psionic assets are so evolved now that they actually have this capacity to intervene in this non-human tech. I mean, that is major news. Because what that means to me is that not only do they have these psychic abilities, and we've heard many times before that UAP are often piloted with psychic abilities, so even the aliens are using their minds to pilot their craft, but our human psionic assets, or hybrid, because they might be hybrid, we'll talk about that in a minute, are somehow bypassing systems, security systems of this intelligent non-human system of transportation or whatever they've got going on. They're able to intercept. This is shocking. And that means they're also kind of intercepting the other psychic influences of the beings who operate the craft. But in this particular story, another flying saucer showed up on the scene, and the psionic asset was overwhelmed with a psychic interference that ended up causing him to have to drop what he was doing, and therefore the UAP dropped out of the sky because he was no longer piloting it. So very interesting story there. Again, it's just a story, but that's kind of all we've got here. And we are collecting, witness accounts over time and looking at the whole big picture. So I don't expect anyone who is a skeptic to all of a sudden feel like they've received the proof that they've always been looking for. But for those of us who have been studying this a long time, it's another interesting piece of information. And like we do on Shocks Talks, let's ground it in the history of UFOs, UFO accounts from the past. So let's talk about another egg-shaped craft. And I'm just going to kind of skim off of Wikipedia, but there's other Shocks Talks episodes where I also mentioned this Lonnie Zamora incident. I just want to brush up on the actual dates. So we have a UFO sighting on April 24th, 1964. This was near Socorro, New Mexico. And this police officer, Lonnie Zamora, claimed he saw two people beside a shiny object that later rose into the air, accompanied by a roaring blue and orange flame. So let's see a couple more details on this. It's interesting that he mentioned people. I put that in air quotes for anyone who's only listening, because he's referring to alien beings that he saw. And some more details around his claims. This thing that he saw, a shiny object, that he initially believed to be an overturned white car, later he described as aluminum-like, whitish, but not chrome, and shaped like the letter O. So egg-shaped, like oval shaped. And he later described the people as normal in shape, but possibly they were small adults or large kids. So they were like your classic small gray sized beings. And many people in ufology do refer to this as an egg and have been talking about it as such for a long time. So when we all heard about this egg, many people are remembering back to 1964 when we heard about an egg from this police officer, Lonnie Zamora. And this thing did end up taking off, as he mentioned, and it did leave traces of smoldering grass and brush. So that's an interesting egg incident from the past, and I do believe that what we saw in the video footage with Jacob Barber is probably real. I have no reason to believe it's not. And he seemed very credible. He seemed very emotional. He's obviously had a really intense time with all of this. And he also feels somehow guided and protected by this presence that connected with him at one point throughout his experiences. And he said it's never left him. So from my perspective and from what I was picking up from him, it sounds like he feels that he made contact with non-human intelligence, and that contact has remained steady and has been a positive and supportive presence on his journey, which is very dangerous, being a whistleblower and coming forward. And other people who have tried to report similar things have been threatened or worse. And he talks about that in the interview too. So really interesting stuff. I do recommend checking that out. And back on the psionics of it all, it's just really interesting to me that this telepathic connection continues to be so important to all conversations around UAP and UFOs. There's always talk of telepathic connection with the beings, and there's been rumors over time of telepathic connection to the craft, and now we have a little more anecdotal evidence to support that theory that the UAP are piloted through mental means. So people are using their minds and their telepathic abilities to interface with these things that we call ships or craft. Whatever they are, we don't know. We don't know yet. So it's a big weekend, lots of energy flowing, and I'm just feeling a lot of things, really, but I'm feeling pretty excited that more and more truth is rising to the surface, and more people are taking an interest in anomalous things. I feel that it's very important right now to stay very grounded and to continue to tap into healthy practices on an individual level in my life, like eating clean and getting good sleep. I feel very encouraged by life and the synchronicities that are reinforcing my own experience of being on the right path. And I'm really inspired by Kai Dickens and the work that she did with the Telepathy Tapes podcast, because it continues to deepen in my consciousness, these little nuggets, these little moments from that whole series that I keep thinking about and going back to. Something really cool happened also. One of the moms of one of the autistic kids reached out to me on TikTok because I was talking about the telepathy tapes, and Houston's mom made a comment on my video, and that was really heartwarming for me and made me feel connected to a community that is really special. And that's something that I love so much about the internet, and I really look forward to more positive connections as time goes on, which is a big part of why I make this podcast. Like, let's be honest, right now I have only a little bit over 100 followers. You're mostly my friends and people that I know. but someone else saw an episode and invited me onto his podcast, and then I posted another video and someone else reached out to me because of that. And I just feel like these are the things that really excite me. It's like I want to connect with this larger community. I want to be connected with the right kinds of people, and I want to find my place in all of this where I can be of service in the greatest way possible. And that was something that Kai Dickens talked about on her podcast. I forget which episode it was in, but somewhere in the middle of the 10 episodes, she said that before she found this project, she had created an intention that whatever she did next for work was really deeply meaningful and aligned with her purpose and was going to help people. And obviously that intention manifested. And I've been setting an intention like that for myself for a really long time as well. And sometimes I feel like it is manifesting, and I do get to do really special work in the world that involves putting art out into the world, let's just say. And there are things about that are really powerful and good, and sometimes it just feels like it's not enough, or it's not the right thing, or it's not good enough, because I don't know, sometimes it's easy to lose track of like what kind of an impact that work is really having on people. But I'm going to continue to maintain my intention and to go into each day with the sense that no matter what job I'm doing, no matter where I am, or what level of reality I'm on, or what level of society I'm in, or how much money I have or not, or how many people I get to interact with or not, I always have the opportunity to make really good choices. And whatever choices are in front of me, I'm always going to make the choice that feels most loving and most authentic to myself. Because even if it's not perfectly loving, that's when I'm going to learn something that I need to learn, because we're all here to learn. That's what we're doing here, in my opinion. And sometimes I really want to be out there just doing more and feeling like I'm really more a part of it all. But this is my way of just trying to get that going before it's even happening. So I'm putting myself out there in this way because I'm hoping that this will lead to other opportunities as time goes on. I'm really committed to learning. I am really serious about applying the techniques that I learn and gathering my own data. I'm really serious about analyzing everything with an open, skeptical mind. And I'm really interested in any and all information that can help humanity to get to the next level of collective understanding when it comes to the nature of reality and how we can best function within that true nature of reality. So those are my thoughts today. I hope you'll check out these links that I put below. Again, I did link my interview with Max Rempel. We kind of went back and forth just chit-chatting about the telepathy tapes. It's very long, so, might be boring to people, but it was cool that happened for me. And I did want to mention that he is a scientist. He studies DNA, and that's what he's been doing for a long time. He's also, sounds like he's written a few books, at least one. And one of the things he talked about was hybrid DNA and how people who believe they are hybrids, he now has a way of analyzing DNA to let people know whether or not there are any inclusions in their genetic patterns that are abnormal. So what it means is he has to look at the DNA of two parents and a child to be able to analyze the data. He needs all three sets of data. He's primarily operating through 23andMe. So he has to use that format because that's what he's set up to do right now. And he's only gathered a couple of subjects so far, and it's just one of the things he's doing among many things. But it got me thinking about like our physical bodies and what does it matter in a way, like relatively speaking, we all got excited about genetic testing because people wanted to connect to their ancestors and understand where they came from. And people were excited to find out that they had maybe like parts of them that they never knew were a part of them. And I could see the same thing happening if one day we're all finding out, ooh, I have a little bit of alien in me too, or some of this or some of that. But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what your body's made out of. It doesn't matter even who your parents are, to be honest. What matters is you, the consciousness, and how you choose to function within the rule set of your physical form and whatever was passed on to you. Because we know that, yes, we live in a society that is full of systems and structures that have a huge impact on people based on the way they look primarily. It really comes down to that. And then now that we have more information, there's this new added layer of just like identity when it comes to all that. But what really matters is how we choose to operate within the system, and the choices that we make. That's where our true power lies, and our true connection goes beyond all things physical. So I am personally more interested in moving away from obsessing over the nitty-gritty details of our physical bodies, although it's very interesting and I love our physical bodies and I'm glad that we have them. But ultimately, I think what matters is who we are on the inside. And I think if anything, that's what the telepathy tapes is teaching us and showing us. So the DNA stuff was cool to think about, but it almost doesn't matter. And these psychic and psi capabilities are available to all consciousness, potentially. And that goes beyond a certain type of physical form. It's like even forms that we humans label as disabled can have these incredible capabilities and consciousness. And I think there's a lesson there for all of us. So that's what I'm thinking about today. I'm going to practice my meditation again today. I'm going to continue to align myself with my intentions and just continue to see what happens. But in the meantime, I'll be here talking about this stuff, and thanks for your support. Thanks for listening. Thanks for thinking about these things. Recommend books to me if you want. Recommend other creators to me if you have someone that you're interested in. Ooh, Darius J. Wright just came onto my radar too, another master of out-of-body experience. So I'm going to start looking at his work more and more. Maybe I'll talk about that on a future episode of Shocks Talks. I'll see you next time. Please like and subscribe if you haven't already. And if you would be so kind, share this episode with someone who would enjoy it. See you next time.